everybody, it's Bricoleur Bricks here again. Today I have the TX-130 Republic Fighter tank with free instructions ready to go. Before we jump in, I want to say please watch this full video. I'm not saying that so I get more watch hours or anything like that. I'm just saying if you're going to build it, this video has a lot of good information in here that's going to help you out, possibly save you a headache, and that way you have a bit of an idea what you're getting into if you decide to build this. In addition, there is a little surprise at the very end of the video if you make it that far. With that out of the way, let's jump right in. So this is one of my favorite Star Wars vehicles, and the awesome thing about it is that it only uses two 501st battle packs. I was really happy that I was able to pull that off because I know there's a lot of people out there who wanted to build my alternate builds but didn't have enough for the gunship or the ATTE. So this one goes out to you guys who only have two battle packs. Starting at the front, there's two torpedo launchers. These little modified plates here, one on each side. After that, we have these slope pieces which help give the front that nice, smooth, and sleek look. In the middle here, in front of the cockpit, we have these dark blue flag pieces. This is where I would put the 501st decal, but I wasn't bothering with it this time. And also there's this other sloped area which is kind of iconic to the design of the fighter tank, so I really wanted to capture that. Then these curved blue fender pieces made some decent sized windows for them to look out of while driving, but not too big to where it's going to be inaccurate to the original design. Another part of the original design that I really wanted to capture was the little notch cut out of the side here. Holds these greebly bits, empty stud shooter and a lightsaber handle and a tap handle. Fill that up nicely. Of course, we have the side cannons here. They are one of my favorite parts of the build just based off looks. Moving to the back, we have some more smoothed off areas, and that leads us to the engines. Those black modified tiles with the gray grill pieces on top give that smooth but mechanical engine look. And in the middle at the back, there's actually a good amount of detail. Up on the top, there is a clip for holding binoculars, a clip for holding a rifle, and just below that, there's another clip for another weapon or binoculars for someone who's outside the tank. There's also this round hatch piece. In theory, it's meant to be a hatch. It doesn't actually open here, but it's a nice look on the back. The top hatch can open and close if this top minifigure is inside, which is a good segue for me to show you the interior. So inside there's room for pilot, co-pilot, and a gunner. Pilot and co-pilot sit side by side, and the gunner sits behind him. Now the gunner is able to sit inside the hull of the tank, which allows the hatch to close, or he can sit up on the gun turret, in which case the hatch has to be open. And I'll show you how to put the minifigures in to do both of those. But first we have to take off the roof, which is pretty easy, but I wanted to go through it. So first you have to remove each of these side panels left and right. They just clip in on one clip so they come off pretty easily. Then take off the front roof panel which holds the turret, also pretty easy. And then you can go ahead and open the rear hatch, and that gives you full access to the interior. When you're putting the pilot and co-pilot in, you want to have their inside arm down, outside arm extended and touching the controls. Inside arms are probably going to touch each other, and you want to make sure they're pushed forward as far as they can go up against that brick because part of the gun turret goes down right in between them. If you want to have the third minifigure inside the hull of the tank, he's got to go sort of in between the pilots on this little stud here, and make sure you move his turret seat out of the way to the opposite side of him so there's room. That will allow you to close the hatch if you want it closed. Now if you want him up on the turret, simply sit him or stand him. Standing is probably better because he can reach the gun better. On this little modified plate, the two studs there, and he can also grip the handle of the turret, and that will allow him to move back and forth with the turret. But again, you can't close the hatch while he's up there. So if you want him to go inside, all you have to do is take him off, move the turret seat to one side, and put him on the opposite side, and that will let you also close the hatch. I will warn you, the cockpit/hull area is a bit fragile. Again, these things happen just because limited parts with the battle packs, but I did what I could to beef it up, and I think it is pretty sturdy. As long as you're not doing more than building it how it was intended from the instructions/putting minifigures inside or taking them out. And the good thing is there's not a lot to it, so if it does break, it doesn't take that long to repair. Which leads me back to the cannons. There's one cannon on each side, and they're by far the weakest part of the whole build because they're only connected with one stud. They do go up and down, but if you go back and forth with it, it's going to break off. But again, it's only one stud. You just have to snap back on. And I should mention, I've said this before, but these models and alternate builds I'm doing, they're meant for display purposes. You can definitely pose it and stuff like that, but the intended purpose is for it to be on display with other vehicles, Clone Trooper minifigures and things like that, as opposed to actual Lego sets, which are meant to be played with over and over and pulled up to a bunch of swooshing, flying, and dropping. That being said, I know there was criticism about my ATTE not being quite sturdy enough sometimes to support its own weight, so I wanted to put a little extra effort into this build to make sure it was sturdy enough to hold up. So on the bottom of this tank, there's these two gray brackets, which are basically there to hold the thing off the ground so it's not setting on the angled sides. If it was setting on these angled sides, it would be drooping and sagging towards the back, which is not good. Because this build is smaller, these two gray brackets are actually enough to support the weight and balance everything out. And sort of as an added bonus, it gives the vehicle that look where it's lifted up and kind of hovering off the ground, just like the actual Star Wars tank would be. Now, as far as handling, the main thing to remember is when you pick it up, you want to pick it up from the bottom. That's definitely the sturdiest place. And when you're building it, like I always say, just be careful, go slow, and brace from the opposite side of where you're pushing, because if you put too much pressure, that's how Lego works. When you put too much pressure on one side, it can all explode. So just something to keep in mind while you're building it. Now, the final thing I'll say about the sturdiness of the build is I did do a drop test. The cannons flew off immediately, but the cockpit was intact and only a few pieces on the front came off. Then I grabbed the cockpit and kind of shook it around and squeezed a little bit, and it did explode eventually, but that's not really how you're going to be handling this thing, or how you should be anyway. Like I said earlier, pick it up from the bottom and you should be good. And even when you're putting the minifigures in, it doesn't take much to pull off those top roof panels, so you shouldn't have something like this happen while you're trying to access the interior. Now, as you may have noticed in the first part of the video, I had two tanks on screen, and if you look closely, one of them had a different weapon on the top. So using leftover pieces, I came up with another option to put up here if you do not want that heavy blaster. It's actually based off the beam cannon turret that was on this vehicle in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 game. Just a sort of mini turbo laser beam controlled by the clone up top. But even after making that extra turret, I still had leftover parts, so I came up with a little bonus side build for this. Basically, it's a tank resupply station. So there's a repair/refuel droid. This arm comes out to repair and refuel the tank. A rack with extra torpedoes to rearm with. An auto turret for defending the station. A little communications outpost with an antenna and a dish and some controls. And there's a shield generator to shield the whole station. And also a little droid that can go and assist with repairing the tank. So the idea being the tank comes in under the shield for protection, the little droid comes over, scans it for what needs to be done, then the big droid comes out with the arm and repairs, refuels, etc. They can get more ammunition, they can use the communication station if they have to, and then they're on their way again, back in the fight. So yeah, I thought that was a fun little side build for this with the leftover parts. You can find the instructions for the tank, the optional turret, and the little supply station all in the description box below. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate it, and I especially appreciate all my subscribers because we just hit 2,000 subscribers the other day. I want to thank every single one of you who subscribed. It means a lot to me. It makes me feel like what I'm doing is appreciated. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the build. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave a subscription, leave a like, leave a comment, and thank you.